Good evening and welcome. Tonight we will be going over the history and geography of Balaka in Malawi. Malawi is a country in, I suppose, South Central East Africa. Very tiny country that's mainly based around Lake Malawi, you can see here, otherwise known as Lake Nyasa in other countries. And we are talking about this town here, Balaka. Now, unfortunately, Google Earth really doesn't have anything here. There are pictures there of like cars or things that are very inconsequential, really doesn't show you the landscape or houses or anything, the area. So unfortunately, we're only going to be on the map tonight. But that's okay because I like playing with the maps and tracing around. Balaka is sort of out of the way in terms of Malawi's major areas. It's far from the Shire River, the main river flowing out from Lake Malawi. It's away from major cities. You can see Blantyre's just down there. The Longway, the capital's just up there. So I really did not find anything that has to do with the history of this town, or the township. It's officially known as the township of Balaka. So I looked up the many different ethnic groups that live in this town and read about their history. So that's the history that I'm going to tell you about tonight. The predominant ethnic group in Balaka are the Yao. The Yao arrived in this area in the 1830s. They are Muslim, and that is due to a very long contact with the Swahili coast, which is just up there. The Swahili coast, of course, had access to the Indian Ocean trade, which was really dominated by Arab traders. So Islam came down to the region due to that. They traded with the peoples of the Swahili coast and also traded religions, apparently, because they are a Islamic culture. Also interesting is that they're one of the cultures that came into contact with David Livingstone. Yes, that is the Dr. Livingstone, I presume, guy, who was a missionary. He came to Africa as a missionary to preach Christianity, but he became more of an explorer and traveled all over kind of South Central Africa, meeting various peoples and documenting many different now famous areas of Africa like Victoria Falls and a lot of places here in Malawi like the Shire River and Blantyre have Scottish names because he was Scottish and he named them. The Yao were in constant conflict with the Ngomi, which is the second most populous ethnic group here in Balaka. The Ngomi arrived from a region in South Africa, as in the country of South Africa, known as Natal. And that is due to the Zulu expansion. There was a time period in South African history called the Mfecane. Hope I'm pronouncing that right. Which was when the Boers, the Dutch immigrants who established lives in the south coast of South Africa, were being pushed north by the British who wanted to colonize the regions. The Boers wound up in Zulu territory, and the Zulu started to push out and expand. And the Zulu are or were, I should say. They're still around, but they were a very violent, aggressive, warlike people. And they would make war with anyone if they looked at them the wrong way. So they were definitely warring with the Boers and eventually the British. But they also warred very much with the other groups that lived in the area. And one of them was the Ngoni. So they fled from the Zulu during the Mfakane, when them and many other groups in southern Africa were pushed farther north. The Ngoni, of course, came into contact with the Yao, who fought against them for control of the area here. The third major ethnic group that lives here are the Lomwe. The Lomwe arrived in the 1890s, very, very late in Malawi's history. They came from the Portuguese-occupied areas of Africa. You can see Mozambique is all down here. That was Portuguese. They came fleeing from persecution from the Portuguese and from a very devastating famine. They were looking, of course, for places that had plentiful food for them. And the Yao welcomed them as cousins, essentially. They knew that they were closely related and said, of course, you can stay here and live amongst us. There are many, many other groups that live in Balaka, but their percentages are very low. Those are the three major ones. And that, unfortunately, is all that I have for you. Very sad. I'm gonna throw my Malawi playlist. I think it just has history and geography of Malawi. I'll throw it up there if you want to know more about the overall history of Malawi. It's a bit interesting. And yeah, unfortunately, that's it. I'm sorry that it's a very short one, but I scoured everything I could to find anything else interesting about this place, and I unfortunately could not. I did find lots of charities here building wells and working in schools. I saw a lot of that. So it seems that the area is slowly but surely building up, which is always great to see. And yeah, sadly that's all I have for you tonight. If this is the first video you've seen of mine, they're usually not this short. The one I did yesterday is much more longer and informative and has my tablet and UNESCO sites. The one I'm going to have for you next is also going to be in Azerbaijan. I should say my one before is Baku, the capital of Azerbaijan. Next video we're going back to Azerbaijan, but we're going up to the beautiful Caucasus Mountains. So we'll play around on the tablet and look at that gorgeous, gorgeous little area of the Caucasus Mountains. So be sure to subscribe so you won't miss out. Thank you so much for watching. I do hope that you found this video to be relaxing and educational. And I hope that you have a good